The first question, when there is question number, I think yes, three will be the question number. So the question is the bottom relief features of Indian Ocean showcase a rich and dynamic geological landscape. They not only contribute to the ocean's ecological diversity, but also had potential for scientific research, resource extraction, and further exploration of this vast and captivating marine realm discussed. So here, most of the facts already given. We just need to elaborate the facts that why these things are there, why this means bottom research is a very rich and dynamic geological landscape. That's what we have to discuss. So look at this picture first. So we know this is the coastal region, coastal plain. Then this is the shoreline. Then the continental shelf rigging. So first, coastal plains, we all know about that. Then the shoreline, from there, we have the continental shelf. Then this continental slope, লাহে লাহে যে সাগৰৰ গভীৰতালৈ গৈ থাকে, সেই যে শ্লোপটো ক্ৰিয়েট হয়, we call it as a continental slope. There you will find submarine canyon and then continental rise, অলপ যে অকমান rise হোৱা দেখিছো, উঠা দেখিছো. Then we have abyssal plain. So if we discuss these different bottom relief features, we'll have a landscape like this. First, coastal plain, then shoreline, after that continental shelf, continental slope, there you will have continental rise and the submarine canyon, and we have abyssal plain. Now, we know that water covers 70% of the Earth's surface, in which only 3% are freshwater. Of this, 2% is in the polar ice cap and only 1% is usable water. So we have 70% water in our Earth's surface, but out of that, only 3% are usable water, that is fresh water. And out of that 3% also, 2% is the polar ice cap, and only 1% left has usable water. Now, oceans make up around 67% of the Earth's surface. The relief features of the oceans are quite different from the continental features because, you know, the oceanic crust is less than 60 to 70 million years old, whereas the continental features are of Proterozoic age, which was over 1 billion years old. So here we are talking about that why the continental features and oceanic crust are different, because we have seen that this ocean means oceanic crust is only 60 to 70 million years old, or less than that, 60 to 70 million years old. ঠিক আছে, তাতকেও কম হ'ব পাৰে. Now, but the continental features is over 1 billion old, over 1 billion years old. That is from the Proterozoic, okay, Proterozoic age. So আমি যে কওঁ 1 billion years old, that is Proterozoic age-ৰ পৰাই continental features খিনি আছে. Now, the oceanic relief features are in the form of mountains, basins, plateaus, ridges, canyon, trenches beneath the ocean water. So what are the features we have? We have mountains, basin, plateaus, ridges, canyons, trenches, but beneath the ocean water. And these forms are called as submarine relief. Okay. Now, what are the factors that make continental shelves one of the highly ecosystem or highly productive ecosystem? সেইবিলাক factors যিবিলাকে আমাৰ continental shelf তোক এটা highly productive ecosystem বনায়. Because the continental shelf is geologically defined as the submerged prolongation of the landmass of the coastal state, consisting of the seabed and subsoil of the shelf, slope, and right. It does not include the deep ocean floor. Remember, this continental shelf does not include the deep ocean shelf. Ocean floor. Deep ocean floor to include কৰা নহয় মাত্ৰ কি থাকে seabed, subsoil of the shelf, slope, and rise. Despite their small size in both aerial extent and volumes, the waters of our continental shelves are usually rich in nutrients and which in turn make them among the most biologically productive areas of the ocean. Remember, this continental shelf, the waters there are very rich in nutrients. So যেতিয়া nutrients rich হ'ব, obviously তাত production বহুত দেখা পোৱা যাব, right? That's why we call them, we actually know that they are biologically productive areas. Then water depth over the continental shelves averages about 60 meters. 60 meter, that is 200 feet. Sunlight penetrates the shallow waters and many kinds of organisms flourish, from microscopic shrimp to giant seaweed called kelp. Ocean currents and runoff from rivers bring the nutrients to organisms that live on the continental shelves. So we have one more benefit in continental shelf region, that is, as it is only 60 meters about average 60 meters depth, that is almost 200 feet. So what sunlight can penetrate this region, and as the sunlight penetrates this shallow water region, so many kind of organism flows, কাৰণ সূৰ্যৰ পোহৰ পালেহে organism খিনি growth কৰে, flourish হয়, নতুন জন্ম হয়, right? From microscopic shrimp to giant seaweed, যাক নেকি আমি kelp বুলি কওঁ. Again, we have ocean currents and runoff from different rivers, which again meet in the sea region, and they bring nutrients to this organism which are living on the continental shelf. So, first আমি দেখিলো, they are very vast nutrient rich water. Second, we have seen that here the sunlight penetrates well enough so that organism can flourish. Third, we have seen that ocean currents and runoff that brings nutrients to this organism living in the continental shelves. Then plants and algae makes continental shelves rich feeding grounds for sea creatures. Accordingly, about 90% of the world's fisheries production is harvested over the continental shelf. So এই continental shelfsত কিয়নো ইয়াত nutrient rich আছে, plants and algae আছে, so high rich feeding grounds for fish. So that's why 90% of the world's fisheries production can be harvested over the continental shelves. One of the reasons for this higher productivity is the increased nutrient loads via runoff from the continental landmass, mostly by rivers. However, many shelf areas receive significant nutrients from upwelling of deeper ocean water. এইটো কথাটো কৈছোৱে যে মানে বহুত বেছি নিউট্ৰিয়েন্ট লোডছ আহে যিবিলাক নেকি আমাৰ ৰিভাৰ বিলাকে কঢ়িয়াই আনে লগতে one more reason is that because of the upwelling of deeper ocean water. What I have said, upwelling of deeper ocean water, that also brings significant nutrients to this continental shelf region. So continental shelf waters also tend to have food chains with fewer trophic levels and on average support larger fish. So it also supports larger fish because they tend to have food chains with fewer trophic levels. Now, ocean relief is largely due to tectonic, okay, আমি জানো না tectonic যেটো plates হয় বা তার movement. So ocean relief is largely due to this tectonic or volcanic or erosional and depositional processes and their interaction. এই যে ocean reliefs to হয় তার region খিনিৰ ভিতৰত আমি ক'ব পাৰো টেকটনিক আৰু volcanic বা erosional বা depositional process হ'ব পাৰে and their interactions. Now ocean relief features are divided into major and minor relief feature. Now major ocean relief features, we have four major division. First one is the continental shelf. There is no clear or well-defined line separating oceans from continents. In fact, continents do not end abruptly at shoreline. They slope seaward from the coast to a point where the slope becomes very steep. Okay, so this continental shelf, আমি কি কৈছো, actually no well-defined line which will separate this from the continent. Okay, also they do not end abruptly at the shoreline. They slope seaward from the coast to a point where the slope becomes very steep. Slope to bahut besi steep hoye jay. The shallow submerged extension of the continent is known as continental shelf. So this shallow submerged extension of continent, যাৰ আমি depth to দেখিছিলোই, that is only 60 meters, about 60 meters, and almost we can say in feet 200 feet. Okay. Then the depth of the shallow seawater over the continental shelf ranges from 120 to 370 meters, but we can say almost 200 meters on an average. But you can say definitely like 120 to 370 meters. The width of the continental shelf varies greatly, ranging between a few kilometers to more than 100 kilometers. Then continental slope and continental rise. The continuously sloping portion of the continental margin seaward of the continental shelf and extending down to the deep sea floor of the abyssal pan is known as continental slope. মই যে প্ৰথম ডায়াগ্ৰামটোতে দেখুৱাইছিলো continental shelfৰ পৰা deep sea water floor লৈকে যিটো এৰিয়া হয় তাক আমি কওঁ continental slope. It is characterized by a gradient of 2.55 degrees. Data is important. So this continental slope is characterized by gradient of 2.5 degree, extends between the depth of 180 to 3,600 meter. Why this is varying? Because you know it ends by the deep sea floor of the abyssal plain. So that's why this number 3,600 meter. 180 কৈছো কাৰণ কিছুমানত তোমাৰ যেটো কন্টিনেন্টাল সেলফ 180 টু এডাই হয় 200 টু এভাৰেজ হয় সো 180 পৰা যেতিয়া কন্টিনেন্টাল সেলফ এডাই হয় তেতিয়া আমি কওঁ যে 2.5 ডিগ্ৰী এটা গ্ৰেডিয়েন্ট ষ্টাৰ্ট হয় যাক কন্টিনেন্টাল স্লোপ কোৱা হয় যি ডেপথ 180 পৰা 3600 মিটাৰো হ'ব পাৰে in some places for example of the shore of Philippines the continental slope extends to a great depth. Continental slope mainly due to the stiffness and increasing distance from the land have very little deposits of sediments on them. Yes, that is true because you know it has a very great degree of steepness. We have just seen that it is around 2.5 degree gradient. So an increasing distance from the land. So it has very little deposits of sediments on them. Remember, continental slopes can have a deposit থাকিব যিখিনি আহে তো ডাইরেক্ট গুছিয়ে যায় steep হয় এটো তললে পৰি যায় বা হিমান দূৰলৈকে নাহে কাৰণ তোমাৰ ল্যান্ডৰ পৰা বহুত দূৰত আছে শেলভৰ পৰাও আতৰি আহি আছে so it has very little deposits of sediments on them. Sea life is also far less than the shelf because you know the depth is increasing. Depth is 180 to 3,600 meter by the deep sea floor of the abyssal plain. So sunlight penetrates less. As the sunlight penetrates less, okay, so what happened? The means flourishing of the different organisms will be less. So যেতিয়া সানলাইট হে নাহে তেনেহলে তো কেনেকুৱা বিলাক জায়গাত তোমাৰ জীৱ উৎপন্ন হোৱাৰ আশাও কম থাকে So সেইভাবে কোৱা হয় যে sea life is also very less here than on the shelf shelf থকাতকৈ কম থাকে. Along the base of the continental slope is a deposit of sediments যিখিনি steep আছিলে ন লাহে লাহে এইবিলাক যিবিলাক লেণ্ডৰ পৰা আহি পেলাই ইয়ালৈ আহে ষ্টিপত গুচি আহি পেলাই sediments-ত পৰে সেই sediments খিনি একেবাৰে বেছত জমা হয় and this belt of sedimentary deposit form the continental rise. সেই যে তোমাৰ sediments খিনি steep continental slope steep হোৱাৰ কাৰণে তললৈ আহি পেলাই বেছত পৰি ৰহি এটা অকমান ওখ হেৰি এটা ফৰ্ম কৰে স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ এটা বা লেণ্ডফৰ্ম এটা ফৰ্ম কৰে তাক আমি কওঁ কন্টিনেন্টাল ফৰ্ম so what happens that by the base of the continental slope some deposit of sediments occurs and that belt of sedimentary deposits form the continental rise. In some region the rise is very narrow but in others it may extend up to 600 kilometers in width. So very narrow to 600 kilometer hobo pare. Then ekebare shekhot amar ki thake deep sea plain or abyssal plain. Abyssal plain are extremely flat and featureless plains of the deep ocean floor. Remember what we have said? Featureless plains of the deep ocean floor. In fact, the abyssal plains are likely the most level areas on the earth. These plains covering a major portion of the ocean floor between the depth of 3,000 meter to 6,000 meter. They were once or regarded as the featureless plain, but modern devices have shown that they are as irregular as the continental plain or surface. They have আগতে তো আমি ফিচাৰলেছ প্লেন বুলি কৈছিলো কিন্তু এতিয়া কোৱা হয় মডাৰ্ণ ডিভাইচেছ চেক কৰাৰ পাছত কৈছে যে এইবিলাকো কণ্টিনেণ্টেল প্লেইন বা ছাৰ্ফেচৰ দৰে ইৰেগুলাৰ হয় মানে কিছুমান ক্ষেত্ৰত ফিচাৰ্ছ থকাও দেখা পোৱা যায় বাট মোষ্টলি দে আৰ ফিচাৰলেছ they have extensive submarine plateaus hills griots sea mounts ইয়াত কি দেখা পোৱা যাওঁ আমি plateaus hills griots sea mounts yes oceanot hollow this you side you think about that these things exist in land areas but this happens in the ocean also so these plateaus hills griots sea mounts can easily be seen in this deep sea plain or abyssal plain the floor of the abyssal plain is covered by sediments obviously last ki thakibo sediments thakibo then ocean deep the ocean deeps are the deepest parts of the ocean. য'ত সবতকৈ বেছি গভীৰতা থাকে তাক আমি কওঁ ocean deep. Remember, don't confuse it with deep sea plain or abyssal plain. They are featureless, extremely flat plains, 3,000 meter to 6,000 meter. But these ocean deep are the region which are the deepest part of the ocean. They are long, narrow, steep-sided, and flat floored depressions on the ocean floor. Remember, narrow, steep-sided, flat, floored depression on the ocean floor, and they are also called submarine trenches. So ocean deeps are sometimes also known as submarine trenches. So we have seen these different landforms exist in that oceanic floor. So let's come to the conclusion. The continental shelf of Indian Ocean is economically very significant for the people. Very significant for the people because Indian Ocean is an ocean of economic opportunities for India. As we can see, a large economical potential over this continental shelf of Indian Ocean. So that's why it is termed as an ocean of economic opportunities for India. The security threats posed by the state and non-state actors are impeding the progress. The government initiatives like, Sagar, Iora, Sagarmala, they should ensure the fruits of blue economy is well reaped. So we have some initiatives. Sagar, শুনা পাইছে আপোনালোকে সাগৰৰ বিষয়ে then IORA, Sagarmala. So এইবিলাক স্কিম বা গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট ইনিচিয়েটিভছ যাৰ জৰিয়তে আমি ইণ্ডিয়ান অচেনত এটা ৱেল ডেভেলপড কমিউনিকেশ্যন চিষ্টেম জেনেৰেট কৰিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰা হৈছে আৰু লগতে ইণ্ডিয়ান অচেনত যিখিনি কাউন্ট্ৰি এছ'চিয়েট হৈ আছে তাহাঁতৰ মাজত এটা গুড টাইপ অফ ক্ৰিয়েট কৰাৰ চেষ্টা কৰা হৈছে। চ' অভাৰঅল ইণ্ডিয়া কেন টেক দ্য লিডাৰশ্বিপ over these regions with its what we can say that its security potential, with its security features, because India is the country where we can see a good strength of naval security that can be employed over the security perspective of the Indian Ocean regions, right? So that's why government brought these different schemes like Sagar, IODA, Sagarmala, and that can ensure the fruits of blue economy. Remember the term? Obviously, this is blue economy. Because ইয়াৰ পৰা আমাৰ বহুত economy potential বা perspective আছে. So that's why we are calling it as blue economy. So with this initiative, we can ensure that the fruits of blue economy is well reaped. I hope this is clear to everyone. So with this, I'm ending this session. Thank you very much.